in this video, I'm going to show you how to get a surface texture, surface quality of this little sugar bowl. And I'll have a nice picture of it for you to work with. The challenge for me in this is to show you what it looks like, what I'm looking at, without showing you the top of the sugar bowl. This is just something that my grandmother had, so it's got a little chip on it. But we're not going to be drawing the actual form. We're just drawing the surface quality. So if you look closely here, you can sort of see these little circular things, and it's made to look like the skin of a strawberry, obviously. Now you can see that it's like these little circles, and there's like this little dot in the middle. So you're going to be tempted when you see something like that to just very simply, if I asked you to draw it, you might be tempted just to kind of draw circles all over your object with little circles within. Alright, so that would be the most basic interpretation of it, but we're actually going to sort of learn how to take it a little further. So again, I've got to start here. Again, we're not drawing the whole thing. We're not drawing this entire form. We're not drawing the form at all. We're simply trying to capture the value. So, I'm sorry, the texture. And part of that is going to be, we're going to do that with value, and we're going to do that with line. So, as I said before, the light is really important when you're drawing. Where is the light coming from? And that will tell you how to create the illusion of this texture on a flat piece of paper. So you can see some of the examples where I kind of started that, and I'm going to pull it up a little closer. So I haven't really done a lot of just circles at all. I'm really just trying to compare, when I'm looking at the surface of this object, I'm really just trying to compare, for example, if we look right here, this area over here is dark. There's some highlights happening right in here and right in here. There's a very dark area that kind of goes around where you know that little seed looking thing is. And then over here we really don't see any more line at all. And in this one right here, there's like a dark, we could think of it as a dark red right here. There's a dark red right here. There's a shine here and here. And then all of this would be shaded, and that gives the illusion of this little recess, which means a sunken in place. And so depending on how the light hits the surface really would depend on how you interpret that on your paper. So I probably should have just emptied this thing so that I could just kind of set it to the side, but such as it is, we'll work with it. Alright, so the first thing that I did was add some value to my page. So since the light is over here, this area is receiving the most light. As it goes around the sides, the effect of the light changes. It gets darker, and then these all have a sheen on them, and then this is darker over here. So I went ahead and when I did this, I was also sitting in front of it, so that makes a difference too. So I went ahead and added some value on my paper. So very lightly, I just began shading by turning my pencil on its side. You can do that. And if you go really lightly, then you can sort of blend it in with something like a cotton ball or a Q-tip or a tissue. All right, so the next thing that I did is I noticed that all of these little sunken in places, they're kind of like this oval shape, I would say. So to make things easy for me and to kind of lay it out on my page a little bit, I went and I applied a little bit more value in the shape of like this kind of semicircle around the page. So that way I kind of laid out some places where I know that I wanted these little texture practice sessions to be. Alright, so that kind of mimics the pattern that you see in this object. Alright, so the next thing I did is just like I was showing you before, I looked at the surface and I was like, well, how do I know? You and I both know what this little divot right here looks like. Okay, we know what it looks like. But if I'm looking at it and it's sitting and I'm not moving and it's just sitting beside me and I'm looking over there at it, how do I know that's what it is? What clues give it away? Well, if I hold it at this angle right here, I can see that there's kind of a dark ring here. There's a area of lighter value out here, and then there's another inner ring. So I would go and recreate that on my page. And I'm going to have to move it to do that, so I'm probably going to pick another one. I'm going to go with this one right here. So if I'm going to draw, let's see, you guys can see this one. So maybe I start with darkening up the value because I can see a pretty good oval shape right there. So I can go ahead, kind of create that oval shape. Again, I'm looking at this one right here. So that's kind of like that outer ring. Then there's like this little inner circle. I can see that on that one. So I'm going to go ahead and draw that in. And I'm not drawing really darkly because what if I want to erase it? I might want to erase it. Now it's darker around here and lighter. That's what makes it look lighter around here. So that means I'm going to have to turn my pencil on its side again. And I'm going to have to add some value so that I can have a ring of lighter value around. Now if I was doing this whole thing, I wouldn't just leave a circle around here like this. I would go ahead and work it into the rest of my sugar bowl, the rest of my surface. But just for our purposes right here, I'm just going to put some value on it. And I can sort of see that the light kind of comes out of it like this a little bit for some reason. I'm looking right here. Probably because there's like a little lip on it right here. I may even decide I don't want that there. I don't know. But for right now, I'm going to put it in. Because really that's like the lip of the sugar bowl. And I can see that this needs to be a little wider. What else do we have going on in there? This ring is pretty thick. But then I think that this circle in the middle is too small. So I'm going to go in. And I don't really want it to look like a button per se. So I'm not pressing into my paper. I don't really want to emboss my paper. So now I'm going to go get my eraser, and you can use your eraser here, but this is my fave, so I'm going to come in with this. And I don't want it to be like a really drawn line. I might have to do some of that. So a little bit of value loss around here, but I think I took too much out, so I'm going to go back and kind of put that back in. Now I'm going to address this much brighter area. And it's not really lines. This one is. But these, I might kind of come in like this and see how this works. Remember that it's an experiment. Seems like it's more solid in here. And then it kind of breaks up the further it gets away. And I might kind of go and touch this up a little bit too. So now I've got something that looks somewhat similar to this. Probably going to need to darken some of this stuff up. It's definitely something that you have to keep working on until you get it really, really good, until you're really happy with it. So what I'm going to say to you is experiment with using your eraser, drawing with your eraser, and creating a sense of texture using line and value. Go find something in your house, anything that you can use to sort of smooth out your value. Make sure that your value, you're blending it. You're doing a little bit at a time. And you'll probably end up with something that you didn't think that you could do before. But again, this stuff just takes time. The object of this game is not necessarily just to get it quote unquote right. The object of this game is to experiment and learn something that you didn't know before. So use your pencils, use your erasers, keep a sharpener handy because sometimes you need a sharp point. Sometimes you might need a little bit of a duller point. Just use everything you got, whatever you got, and see what you can do to create a sense of value. All right, so it kind of ended up looking like an eyeball, but I think if I went throughout the whole thing and I was actually drawing this actual form, I think it'd be fairly successful. So I'm satisfied with that. I'm going to keep going. Kind of like these better, to be honest, because that by itself really just looks like an eyeball. So there's that. But just look for shapes that you see in the work. Look for areas of darkness and lightness, and then just kind of recreate it in what you're doing. Okay, good job.